Hello and welcome to today's daily news analysis. So today, 16th of Feb, we are covering the Hindu newspapers Delhi edition. And you can see the name of the channel. Please do click on the subscribe button, click on the bell icon, right? So that will help us. Okay, now as part of our initiative, we make it a point to share questions for mains answer writing practice, and you can get your answers evaluated. So up to 2 answers per week. So all you have to do is write it in the pen and paper format, share it on the details that I have on the Telegram or the WhatsApp, right? It is mentioned in the description box, so that you can do. Now these days I am experimenting, right? These are the headlines and you can see the topics that they are highlighted, that these are the topics where I'll be having the mains based questions. So this is it, right? And my basic overview, basic things also like viewpoints about that article are also elaborated. Right then, so let's get started with the first topic. So the first one is with reference to the Ukraine crisis. And I think there's been a while where I discussed this question and I believe this is very important. So let's revisit. If you have written the answer, well and good. But let's do this again in a very brief manner and then we'll come back to the developments that are taking place. So just 3-4 minutes. Explain the recent political developments on Ukraine-Russia border and its impact on world politics with special reference to India. So when you're attempting this issue, right, Ukraine-Russia, so much is there in the news. So first of all, you need to state as to what all is happening, right? So you have to state that, see, in the recent times, we are having a military build-up from Russia on the eastern side of Ukraine. Then a military exercise was going on in Belarus, where we see the the troops are amassed, the Russian troops, and we believe that there may be a possible invasion of Ukraine by Russia, right? So briefly, you have to state this, and this has triggered a diplomatic row, especially with the NATO countries led by USA, France, and Germany. Simple. So you can start your answer by stating as to what all is happening. Then, what are the underlying causes or why is it happening basically, right? So the underlying cause. So this is the one that you have to elaborate now. So basic reason is that Ukraine is strategically important for Russia. So first of all, in 2014, there was a war of Donbass where a territory of Russia was invaded by Ukraine, that is the Crimean Peninsula. This is important because it provides Russia access to, all-weather navigable ports. Sevastopol is all the time it is navigable. Russia, if we see on the northern part, Arctic's very cold, frigid. On the eastern side, again, it is like that. There is cold current, so that makes things difficult. So it is this which is important. So Russia, we believe, wants to secure the access, secure its control over the Crimean Peninsula, cut off Ukraine, because they have retained control, but they left when they invaded into this territory by the war of Donbass. They left. So they can anytime Crimea can be taken over by Ukraine or by the Western-led countries. That is a concern. Okay. They also want, this thing is important, and this port is opening in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. So this provides access to the European area, the African area, the Mediterranean Sea, and from there on you can enter into the Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and all that geography. So in that way also this is important. Okay, then there is this ethnic Russian population in the eastern part of Ukraine, which is, ethnic people, so they are soft and sympathetic towards each other. The Russians in, obviously in Russia, and the ethnic Russians in Ukraine. Then it is believed that Kiev is the place, capital of Ukraine, is the place where the culture of Moscow actually originated. So very close to the heart of the Russians. Right, sometimes, in our country also we say Akhand Bharat with reference to Pakistan, Bangladesh, something like that. Right, so this should be part of ours. This was USSR earlier, the entire territory was ours and now it has been taken away from us. This is not right. And furthermore, if you look at the Ukraine, these are plains. If you look at the physical map, and this is separated, this is a plains and there is a Carpathian mountains over here. So if anybody had to invade, for example, the French invasion of Russia by Napoleon, So all they had to do is get over this Carpathian mountains. So mountains act as barriers. Get over the mountains and enter the plains and then back very easily into Russia. Plain area, sparsely populated, so very easy to enter into Moscow. Now what if Ukraine becomes part of NATO? Right, you can see this is the map of NATO countries, so Ukraine is not part of. But what if Ukraine becomes part of NATO and they want to be part of it, but the ethnic Russian population does not want this, by the way. Okay, so if this happens, the NATO will increase the territory of NATO and this will be a direct threat to the country. So why not invade Ukraine and eliminate this option altogether? And likewise, reach the natural frontiers of Russia, Carpathians. Right, so that is the underlying logic over here. In fact, I can't help myself now. Don't mention this in the answer. Even in Indian context, we say that the Khyber Pass, right, in our Indian geography, the Hindu Kush and the Khyber Pass, that is our natural frontiers. So towards the northwest and towards the north, Himalayas. So like that. So these are the underlying factors over here. Right, then we have the concerns of Russia. So they have said that this is basically with reference to the Ukraine entering into NATO. That is the primary concern over there, and the build-up of NATO that is still continuing even after the suppression of the Cold War. So NATO is a product of the Cold War, when the tensions were there between the Western bloc, the bloc that was led by the USA, and between the Russia bloc. So Russia as a counter had formed Russia with the satellite states of the Eastern Europe. They found the Warsaw Pact. So Warsaw Pact is not there. Then why is the NATO still there? And they say that it is a threat to us. It's a defensive treaty, but they say it is a threat to us against Russia. It is targeted against Russia. So they have this concern over here. Right. So you mentioned the concerns, and in this. We'll come to the article later. So after the concerns over here, then you mention the impact. How does it impact? First of all, tensions between Ukraine and Russia, right? So political instability. Then it will provide the Russians access into if they have better control, entry into the European backyard of Europe, which will not be liked by the Western countries, especially UK, France, Germany, these countries. So they'll be uncomfortable. Russia and Turkey do not have very good relations, right? So these are certain issues over here. Furthermore, it affects the internal politics also. For example, if the USA has said if Russia invades into Ukraine, then there'll be comprehensive sanctions. Already they are under sanctions when the war of Donbass had taken place, but now there will be even more comprehensive sanctions. So with reference to this, there is another development known as the Nord Stream. This is important for your prelims also. Nord Stream. So this is basically Russia is the second largest supplier of oil and natural gas. So from Russia, this oil gas is moving to the Germany. From Germany, thereon it provides energy to the other parts of Europe also. So oil prices are low if the supply is there. If the supply is gone, which Germany has also said that if you don't do it, the Nord Stream project will be cancelled. So there is Nord Stream which is already there. Actually, we are referring to Nord Stream 2. Right? This is a project which has been constructed, but still pipeline, the gas is not still provided. So already in these countries, we have the issues of inflation, price rise, and high energy prices. So this will provide a sense of relief. Right, so you can briefly list down certain features, otherwise this will be a very big answer, right? So you have to be concise, prudent over here. Then mention with reference to India. Now when there is a sanction on Russia, right? India-Russia relationship is good, we have good defense ties. But if there is a sanction over here, naturally it curtails our options of trading or having our engagement with Russia. That is a problem. Okay, and India has to balance with USA also. US and India are aligning on multiple fronts like Quad, etc. Quad, they are acting as a counter to China in the recent times. So this complicates. And at this time, what we find is that Russia, because the sanction is there, China has said that, you know what, dude, you don't have money because sanctions are there, your assets are frozen, we will give you money. but you have to provide us oil and natural gas. They are also happy. Russia has market for their oil and natural gas. But in the process, what is happening is Russia is becoming a bunny of China. China is controlling them because their economic interest, their well-being is in the hands of Chinese. And China and India relationship is bad. Right, so briefly, you have to bring all these aspects in your answer. Okay, now what has happened is recently, I think you can also refer to this Minsk agreement. So with the problem that was taking place, to mitigate this problem, France, Germany, they created this initiative known as Minsk agreement. So this is the capital of Belarus, where they had a meeting. Russia and Belarus are friends. So Russia, Ukraine, Germany, France. So Minsk agreement took place. And as a consequence of this comes the Normandy format. Against the same country are there. And this you just have to memorize also. I mean, you have to just keep things in mind that Britain is not part of this initiative. Because Britain, you expect it to be a major power, so be part of this initiative. So with reference to MCQ, it's this you have to keep in mind. So Normandy format, recently then there was a shuttle diplomacy that was taking place. France for president shuttling from one place to another, trying to bring about a consensus. Now is the chance of Germany. So what we see now is that Russia says that some troops, now this is not accurate, right? How many troops? So some troops are pulling back from areas near Ukraine. Then they say military exercise to continue. So some troops are there, military exercise is also about to conclude also. So what does this mean actually? Are the troops there or not? To what extent have they withdrawn? Are they very close to the border, or are they at a place where they can again enter into the border area? Right? So there are certain things that we need to consider. So there is a lot of ambiguity with reference to the statement. But yes, it reflects some sort of a conciliation that is taking place between the Russians and the West. Ukraine is just it's just something that is caught in between a conflict here. Okay, so this is it actually. Now we have something known as President says that Russia cannot turn a blind eye to how Washington and NATO freely interpret the principle of indivisibility of security. So indivisibility of security is a concept. So it basically is this, that no country should strengthen its security at the expense of others. Right? So in this context, it's very simple. So indivisibility of security is basically in context of NATO, which says that let's say these countries over here, right, if they have a dealing with Russia, naturally it may affect the interest of Poland. So their interests are interlinked, because if let's say that these countries decide to be a part of the Russian bloc, then Russia has greater access. So this may compromise their security. So the indivisibility of security is there, that the other countries, they have to be mindful of the interest of that their neighbors, or their security interests are not compromised. So this is the basic thing. Now in this case, it is saying that because of this NATO and because of all this exercise, what if Ukraine becomes part of NATO? Then in that case, it is compromising the security of Russia. Right? So it is at the expense of other countries, that is basically with reference to Russia and Ukraine. This is, please take a screenshot and read it. So Financial Times, I took the screenshot, but to me, I think that thing in the Hindu paper itself is sufficient. Okay, now coming to the second question, anti-lynching bills passed by 4 states hanging fire. Okay, so two things over here. One is the anti-lynching bills, and this thing is very simple. Why do we need an anti-lynching bill? And this is exactly the viewpoint of center. Right, central government. So this is the bill that is brought about by the states. Center is on a different page altogether, and this is something that we need to understand. Why do we have a special bill of anti-lynching when there are already laws, which the center itself says that we have already laws for murder and 300 and 302 of IPC which pertain to murder? Then why do we need this anti-lynching bill? That is the view of center. So the center parliament, they say that we are not going to introduce a central bill on anti-lynching. But nevertheless, 4 states have introduced: Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Manipur, West Bengal. So 3 non-BJP states, BJP rivals, and 1 BJP ruled state. Now in this context, if you can answer this question, I think we are done. Right? Anti-lynching bills. And in fact, I couldn't place the exact question actually. Maybe it's the same one. So I couldn't place it. There was a question on mob lynching itself, mob violence. And there was a remark of the Supreme Court also that democracy is now turning into mobocracy. There was a lot of lynching incidents that had taken place in around 2016, 17, 18. And that had provoked a remark from the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court had also said that we need to focus on constitutional morality. So these things had come into light, and actually mobocracy, mob violence, lynching, same thing, and this thing again. These have been referred to in the papers of our UPSC papers. Also, there was a question on communalism itself. So with reference to communalism, there was a question in 2018 where it said that what the reason for communalism, basically the statement was that the communalism is a result of relative deprivation or power struggles. And somewhere anti-lynching also is somewhere connected with the lynching thing, mob violence that was taking place with communalism. Okay, so let's do this, right? Let's do this and everything will fall into place. So first of all, what is mob lynching? People come together, target somebody, right? This is an extrajudicial way that maybe somebody was accused of, there was an allegation of somebody engaging in sexual misconduct. So the person is taken from the jail and beaten up. Or a WhatsApp rumor is there that so-and-so woman is kidnapping children. On any grounds, the mob takes matters into their own hand and kill the person. Lynching, the person is lynched, beaten up and killed. I think yesterday or today morning only that Google that thing is there where you get those news updates. So professor was beaten up recently by politically affiliated students. So mob lynching. Now what is the reasons for the rise in mob lynching? Now first of all, you have to give a specific fact, which unfortunately we do not have. So we do not have, because the NCRB did work on this, but then maybe because it was politically sensitive, or because the reason that is given is that there was no specific category. They did work on this, but no specific category of crime, and therefore they let aside. So anecdotal evidence, or maybe an evidence outside of the government, needs to be quoted to suggest that there is a rise in mob lynching in the recent times. Right, so that effect. Then what are the reasons for this? Reasons are very simple. Many a times, maybe you can give it with reference to examples, that there is a communal tinge to it, competitive communalism in the recent times. Right, so this is there. So this is there. Then cow vigilantism and all those things. Again, this is a communal side of thing. India being a soft state. Soft state means not very hard on the criminals, giving a free hand to the criminals, people who are engaged in the wrongful conduct. Okay. Mob lynching also provides a sense of impunity. People, Behti Ganga mein apne haath. You just take, somebody is beating up, you also start doing it. Why? Because you know that you will not be held accountable, because so many people were there, part of it. So they have a sense of impunity. And how many times, even you look at the news also, how many times somebody who's actually beaten up somebody or killed somebody has actually been tried. I'm not saying got convicted, tried here, right? Prosecuted. So no. So the sense of impunity over here. Then the role of, I think first you mentioned intolerance, erosion of the value system of people in the recent times. And then the role of social media in augmenting tensions and accentuating the problems of communalism and intolerance in the society. So combined, all of this has led to such a situation. And political aspect has been referred to indirectly in a different word, soft state. Okay. And please, this is a very important thing, right? So there is something known as soft power. I am saying soft state. India has a soft power in the sense, when we say diplomatically, that in diplomacy space, that India is focusing, it's not a hard power, it is not using military against other countries, but it is using its power on reconstruction. It is a country of civilization. That is soft power. Soft state means that the state is not able to do much with the criminalization that is taking place. It's if there is somebody who's powerful who says I'm so and so son, then the state is not able to implement the rule of law. So such things are basically soft state, doesn't have much power. And that is normally with countries like ours, middle income or the low middle income countries. So there we see, and where there is high inequality, right? So you can measure state. Now what measures need to be taken? What measures need to be taken to counter communalism, intolerance? What measures need to be taken to inculcate the value system, right? So sensitization has to be done. Community leaders have to be engaged. Rule of law has to be ensured. Those institutions, the policing, etc., has to be trained and sensitized. And maybe there is a need to relook of having a specific policy or a specific law such as the anti-lynching bill, given the complexity of the crime. Mob lynching, maybe it may amount to murder, but it is still not murder, right? Somebody goes into your house and like Muhammad Akhlaq or somebody, in that case, it's not the same actually, even if the end result is the same. So we need a different approach to this. Okay, next is India slams communal mindset of OIC over remarks on hijab rule. Clear. Okay, so first of all, this is important for prelims, and some additional things we'll be doing which will help. Okay, so organization of Islamic cooperation, right? So this is basically a group of Islamic countries. They are concerned about the welfare and the well-being of the people, population, and of the countries, of course. So it is this basically, right? These are the countries over here you can see on the map. So I'll come to this. So they have said that, see, in India there is certain issue that is going on, the concern with reference to the right of the Muslim women, particularly of wearing their dress that they want. So hijab is to do with the religion also. So that is getting affected. So they say that they have invoked the United Nations and its Human Rights Council. That, see, this is a violation of human rights. UN and UN Human Rights Commission, they need to look into this issue and take necessary steps for the well-being of the Muslim community and protecting its interest. Now, you know, this is Indian government will strongly reply to it. So thereby they are saying that it is being reflective of the communal mindset, and India has its own system. Like example, we will do this in the next news, that India has its own system of courts, rule of law. So we have this legal and the constitutional framework according to which we function, right? And this is not the same as what is happening in Sri Lanka, genocide in Sri Lanka or some other place. So it's being negotiated, it is being talked about by the mechanisms. So this remark is unwarranted, and thereby this strong rebuke that has come. Now with reference to OIC, naturally now with reference to our prelims also, United Nations Human Rights Council and OIC, you need to know more about it. And here it says Pakistan is a leading member of the OIC, and Pakistan uses OIC as a tool against India. So now it is with reference to hijab, it may be with reference to the mob lynching incidents. Normally it is the minorities that are targeted. And with reference to Kashmir, every year with reference to Kashmir, they give a remark, and India is very upset with that. Okay, now I'll give you some hints about this, right? These are the basic ideas, things over here. So I'll tell you something. So which is, first of all, Indonesia is the country which has the maximum population of Muslims, and then comes second is India. But India is not having a representation in OIC, right? This is one thing that you need to keep in mind. And with OIC, the leader is Saudi Arabia. So the headquarters is in Jeddah. Okay, so this is there is influence of Pakistan, that means Pakistan is a member. Now with reference to Saudi Arabia, it is not specific to this West Asia region, but there are African nations, East Asian nation, right? Even a country in South America has been reflected over here. So they are all part of the OIC. That means there is a much larger representation. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind, normally when you study more, you start getting confused, right? So Saudi Arabia is there. So normally when Saudi Arabia is there, then Iran is not there because they are rivals. But here Iran is a member. So like that, you need to think right? It's because you can't memorize everything. Now it is there on the map before you, but in prelims, when there is pressure and tension, things go away. So then you have to keep things in mind. Likewise for OPEC also, the same logic applies. Now coming to the Human Rights Council. Now the first thing, what does this do, right? So that is obviously about the human rights issue. Where is it located? Is India a member? What is the grounds for election? Certain basic things for prelims. So naturally the first thing that came to mind, and I checked, so we have this Twitter handle of India at UN. So in 2021 itself there was an election and India got a membership, right? So India got a membership with reference to UN. So that means election takes place, election. And what is the system? So basically there are, like, imagine a council, keep a blank slate, right? Keep your mind empty. Now imagine when elections take place, anybody can stand up and contest, right? From a place, anybody. But in this case, there is a restriction. The candidates are elected in geographical groups. So you can imagine the world map and imagine different geographical areas. So to have uniform representation in that council, the elections are there within that geographical group. And to ensure that no country has a universal representation, there is a limit that no country can serve or no member can serve more than 2 consecutive terms. So if India serves 2 consecutive terms, then next it cannot do. Okay, so this is it. And now we have this, you can use certain things with your essays and answers. So we will continue to work for promotion and protection of human rights through Samman, Samvad and Sahyog. Respect, deliberations, discussions and Sahyog, cooperation. Right? So these are the framework in which India will look into the human rights aspect. So these are some things, some changes that you can do and highlight your answers in a better way. So it's not just you have to underline your points. So these are the things that you can also do. Okay, now coming to this trade related aspects. So a brief figure about monthly about Jan, and I honestly in this such figures like current account deficit, trade deficit, etc. All you have to do is remember the trends. Remember the trends, remember the graph, and not even remember, just apply a logic and you're done. Because there are so many things you can't do. So let's briefly do it. What are the things? So first of all, we have that the trade deficit has come down in January, and primary reason is that the gold imports have fallen down to just $2.4 billion. So one thing it reflects that with reference to our trade deficit, right, it's gold that is affecting our current account deficit. That is, we are importing more value of gold, and therefore when we import, money is going out of our country. So one is gold. Other things that are not mentioned, gold is there, a matter of great concern. Then there is electronic components that is emerging, and then crude. In fact, in that order, I'll say crude, gold, and then electronics. Therefore, we have a lot of emphasis on electronics manufacturing in the recent times. And plus, electronics is also about national security. Now, think about it. Why will the gold imports fall? Have we found any mines or something in a country? No, we have very limited resources. Then why will gold come down? And every gold is so important culturally speaking. Marriage is taking place or anything is there. Gold is very, very important. It is considered as a stable source of wealth also, income. Right? So why? So basically it is giving us a reason over here that what had happened is that 2020, everybody knows this year, dangerous year, right? 2021 was more dangerous actually. So 2020 COVID, everything lockdown, marriages didn't take place. Primary reason actually cultural festivals and other things. So gold wasn't being, obviously gold demand had come down because of that. Now eventually in 2021 restrictions gone. Those people who wanted to get married, now they get married. I think all of us have those relatives, right? Including me. So I did before. So they had this wanting a lot of gold over there. Suddenly there was this purge, so gold increased in 2021. Then it comes down because the demand was very high at a point of time. With relation to that, it has come down. So it is basically an issue of base effect, right? So at a particular year, it was very, very high and exceptionally high, and then with reference to that, it has come down. So gold imports fallen. Okay. And yeah, this is the basic reason for declining trade deficit. Okay, one more thing. With reference to gold, right? Gold import is a major concern of a country. So naturally, government has to do something about it. And 2014, our government had changed, Prime Minister Modi. So he had expressed concerns about this, and around 2014, some schemes and initiatives were brought into place to reduce the gold imports. So we have the sovereign gold bond scheme. So and also gold monetization scheme. So what is the idea? That see, you buy gold, right? You have gold, you keep it gold in as a reserve. So when you need money or when you have a festival, you use that gold. So why don't you use, you are not using it, it is going in your cupboards only or in the locker room of the bank. So why don't you just buy paper that is having a value of gold? So sovereign gold bond scheme. Or if you already have gold in your house which is of no use, you use this and get money in return of this, right? So, and at a specific rate of interest you will keep getting. So you submit this again, you get back the gold. That is the idea. So converting the investments in gold, so for that investment in gold, you are buying gold. So money is going out. Instead of this, use this sovereign gold bond and gold monetization scheme. My parents do not agree with this. I keep telling them this, right? They believe it is a stock market thing. Don't do this. But yeah, that sense of contentment is still not there. So this is it, right? So these are the things that the government is doing it. So bad effect of gold imports, and what measures have the government taken. Phensedyl smuggling, a challenge for BSF. Now, two things here. One is BSF is a security force, Central Armed Police Force, which is tasked with obviously borders of Bangladesh and Pakistan. So two things. One is security forces and their mandate, GS3 directly. Then we are looking at the issue of border management, which is a recurring thing. In fact, this is the most important theme of all the subjects, or in your GS 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the most important. Repeatedly this is asked, and the other one is the left-wing extremism. So much so that I expected that the Northeast questions will be there on Northeast India, that militancy is there, what is the reason? No. That also with reference to border management, it is asked that border is very difficult, so there is militancy. So border management is the key thing. In some way or the other, it connects with border management, UPSC. And one more thing I'll tell you, my experience, which actually I also got to know much later. So I was teaching security at a prominent place. So security every year has about 5 questions, 4 to 5 questions. That means 40 to 50 marks weightage, right? And now I'm very simplistically multiplying it by 10, 4 into 10. It could be 15 also. So around, let's say 40 to 60 marks is coming from this. And very limited amount of topics. Is much better than polity and other subjects. Okay, so this is it. Marks are secular, right? It doesn't matter how do they come. Okay, so briefly we'll cover this, then I'll explain these things that I mentioned over here. So first of all, this BSF is there. It is a security force that is specific to Bangladesh and Pakistan. So it's with these two countries only. In fact, all the security forces are allocated particular countries. So we have others also like ITBP. So ITBP is with the northern side, so China, right? So like that. Then we have the Central Industrial Security Force. So that is also a kind of a specialized force with industrial assets. So they are basically one border, one force. So there was a committee in 2004 that had recommended this. So BSF is the only one with 2 agencies here. Okay, so there is this reference of a drug, Phensedyl drug, which is in the coke cough syrup that is there. So this has this drug this is medicine which can be used as a drug. So I remember in school also, children used to, my classmates, so with the fell pens and with the whiteners, they used to smell and get the high, right? So this is there. Don't do this. Okay, so this is it basically. So because the Muslim majority countries, there is a problem that they have this strict law because of the religious faith, that do not engage in drugs, but here they are using alternative means. So this is a matter of concern with the BSF, that smuggling is taking place, especially from Indian side, and that their force is also concerned because of this. border guards of Bangladesh. Okay, now what things do you need to know? One border, one force, I told you, right? Security forces and their mandate has been asked. You can be asked a very specific question with reference to a particular force that has been there in the news. Like BSF was there in the news with reference to Pakistan and the expansion taking place, right? The territory from 25 kilometers, their area of influence to 50. So the power had been increased. So BSF is there in the news, so that you can prepare. Likewise, other central armed paramilitary force. Now, one more thing that I like to add is that these forces are in between forces, paramilitary. That is why we call them as para. So they are neither police, that is, police is in the business of maintaining law and order, and neither they are purely army, defense, army, air force, navy, army particularly. So they are an offensive force. They are in between. So the basic job, as you can see over here, is one is this infiltration that is taking place, human trafficking. So their job is maintenance of the borders. And sometimes they are also required to, obviously, some policing function, some engage with the community so that the community support is also there. So such activities. And they are also the front line of defense. Imagine if there is a war, then they are the first ones who engage. But when actually the war takes place, first time it is there, then they go back and the army comes in the front, right? So that is the basic difference. And with army, that civilian thing should not be there, it is with them. Okay, now coming to secularism, very important from polity, and here you can see a question was also asked in 2019. In fact, the same concept is being discussed over here. Your Lakshmikant also refers to it. But with Lakshmikant, it is basically articles and constitution and some things are elaborated. Not very helpful for the mains perspective. Okay. So let's do this. So this is naturally with reference to the hijab issue that is there, right? So this is being heard in the High Court now. And basically the challenge is that the hijab should be allowed to be where? In public institutions like colleges, schools, etc. So when the arguments are taking place, so there came the question of Turkey. So Turkey is a country which is an Islamic country, but there the wearing of this religious symbols and things, right, that symbolizes one's religion is not displayed by the people. But in India that is done. So one is this issue over here, and with reference to this, they said that the secularism that is there in Turkey, where you have to be specific, you don't display your religious things in the public. So that is not our model of secularism. Our model of secularism is positive secularism, right? So this is it, and they say our positive secularism is coming from not from the West, but it is there in the Vedic culture itself, where they say Sarv Dharms Sambhava, that is Sarv Dharm, possibility or coexistence of all religion. So here the state plays an enabler role for religious freedoms of all communities. Right. Now let's do this with the question over here, and Turkey, France, very similar. So what can France learn from Indian Constitution's approach to secularism? Right, so we're basically looking at the aspect of the secularism of the West and India. And when we say secularism of the West, we say negative secularism, and with India we say positive secularism. So this is a concept that you need to keep in mind. And positive secularism coming from Sarvadharm Sambhav. I'll explain this. Okay, so even the word secularism that is coming in a preamble, right, it is coming from France itself. And what does secularism say? Secularism says that the state shall not be influenced by religion. The state shall not differentiate people, especially on the basis of religion. Right? So you can imagine the case with France, where there is France or the European society, where there was too much dominance of the clergy, the priestly class, and the king, the ruling elite. So there should be a strict separation. So that is the concept over here, strict separation. So if you see, this is a negative thing, that not negative thing in the sense that it's a restriction. So in that way we can say it is negative. So it is stopping you from doing something in Indian context, and in fact not just with West, otherwise also we have so many examples of a past also. We have been following the principle of Sarv Dharm Sambhav. So coexistence or possibilities of all religion together. So even, in the we have the examples of the mosque king allowing the permission to establish mosque, or the Parsi community settling up, establishing their temples, that permission being given. So in a very conservative times also, such freedoms and that liberty was there. And even in our today's time, we find that the state, in West we find that there is strict separation from religion and this thing. Here we find that state can play a positive role. State is actually enabling exercise of religious freedoms. So state is playing a positive role. They are not saying that you cannot display your things or other things. Even in France, they had banned hijab and burkini. So bikini was there. So they introduced burkini as a, when go to the beach, etc. Muslim women. So burkini was banned in schools. Patka was banned for 6. There was a problem. So that is a negative in that sense. It stops you from doing this. But in our everywhere, like you can see me wearing turban, there is no problem. Even in armed forces also, that liberty is provided. So state can play a positive role. Only thing is that it should not affect public order, peace, etc. So this can be referred from Article 25 of a constitution also, freedom to practice and propagate one's religion, as long as it doesn't affect one's public order, health, safety, those things. So state can play a positive role. We also find state actually sponsoring religious pilgrimage, the Hajj pilgrimage, the Vaishno Devi, Amarnath Yatra, so many things. So that is the difference over here. State is also sensitive towards the concern of the people. State is not insensitive like in the West. In France, what had happened was, there was a magazine known as Charlie Hebdo. There was a magazine, like we have this Times of India, India Today, etc. So Charlie Hebdo. So they made a magazine where they depicted the image of Prophet Muhammad, right, the founder of Islam. They never be accepted in Indian context, but they had done this, and naturally there was a militant attack that took place and a lot of killings had taken place in their office. In India, it will never happen, because we are concerned about the religious sensibilities of the people that exist over there, right? So this is what it says, that in France, what has happened in the recent times, especially with reference to the Syrian crisis and the migration crisis, more and more Islamic population, and with globalization also, there are people of different groups, different sects that are there. So somewhere that outlook has to change in that regard with reference to secularism. In fact, when all these incidents were taking place, most of them took place in West, extremist this thing. So there was a diplomat from the US. This is an old news actually, this 2017-18. So who was posted in France, he said that, see, we are going to, in US we will not have the issues, but France is going to witness a lot of problems. Why? Because their model of secularism is very different from the American model. So American model is also very accommodative, so many freedoms and liberties provided, right? So this is it. And likewise for India also, he made a special reference. Okay, tribal festivals. This was a news image, and I feel these are very, very important, good for prelims. So we have this image where women are carrying jaggery. Jaggery is good, right? So which is equal to their weight. That is a lot of weight, right? Imagine. So a lot of weight to worship tribal deities at the 4-day Medaram Jetara festival in Mulugu, Telangana. So let's read about this. This is important for prelims. So this is a festival that is about the tribal deities. So it is actually about the mother and daughter, the fight of mother and daughter against the local king. So they were fighting. So the mother and daughter are known as Samaka and Sarlama, right? So they were fighting against a king. So king was there, maybe the king was trying to expand his territory. So naturally encroachment with the tribals. So they were fighting against him, right? So now their legend has been created. So Medaram Jetara is basically to commemorate this fight over here. Okay. Now coming back, this festival that is there, this is a Jatha, that is people come together like in the Kumbh Mela. So after the Kumbh Mela, this is the one which has the largest number of devotees that are coming to pray. This is in Telangana, as you can see, and in this jaggery is offered. You saw this, right? So jaggery is offered, and it is known as Bangaram. The thing that they are having on their head is Bangaram. So Bangaram is literally translation is gold, but here the thing that is being given is jaggery, right? So this thing you need to keep in mind. So these are some basic things like these you have to focus when you study for prelims. Okay, I have one more question. Recently, few states in India banned online games. To what extent the ban is justified? Simple, right? Basically, I want to look at the aspect of online gaming, the issues and concerns associated with what are the things that are required to be considered when we are looking into the issue of online gaming. So we have the reference of Karnataka only, but we have Karnataka, of course, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. So these states are there who decided to ban all the online games. So imagine all the online games are banned. Why? Because it is addictive. Please note down, it is addictive. It may have an element of betting, so people may get into betting, and this may gambling, and this may ruin the houses, ruin the households or the incomes also, right? Children are getting into this trap. So this is problematic. Then we also have, I'll add few things. Remember those challenges like Blue Whale Challenge, where online game is there, where you are given a task, and the task is inflicting a pain upon yourself by cutting your wrist or jumping from the balcony, something like that. So Blue Whale Challenge, and more things are coming, and this is a real concern, threatened concern, right? Then we also have gaming, especially online games, inculcating a sense of violence, objectification of women. So there are other things as well. Okay, so these are not there in the editorial, of course, right? So these are certain challenges. So naturally, keeping this in mind, the state said, I am there, don't worry, I'll ban all the games. So they're reflecting a paternalistic attitude where the state is being proactive and concerned about the welfare. So naturally, this is being banned, but there is a concern with this ban over here, right? To what extent the ban is justified. So first of all, why ban online games? And that when you ban all online games, you're banning all the games that are online. And when you say that it is addictive, that is a different thing. But engaging in betting and gambling, do all games engage in betting and gambling? By the way, there are actually racing games and all those things which actually, ask you to pay money, and then you'll get that racing game, like you get that mod or other things, modifications. So they actually push you into buying things. So if your parents' card is there or something, then those things have happened where money has been deducted like anything. Okay, so this thing is there, that why on all online games? This is not justified, that not all online games are having this evil effect of violence, objectification of women, or the blue whale, right? So this is there. All online game is not justified. Then we have to segregate, like, which are the games that have an aspect of skill, even online games like racing or that shooting games. So there is an element of skill, there is an element of betting. We need to segregate that. Maybe if you want to concern about this betting games, this fantasy leagues, all those advertisements are coming up. So if you want to ban this, then do that. By the way, this has been struck down, so fantasy games also have been relieved because of this. Right, this is there. Then you are invoking a medium-based regulation. See, poker is there. For example, poker, online rummy is there where you are betting. But then in that case, you are betting only online game. The poker is being played in real life also. There is jua and gambling that is taking place. So that is also there. You ban that also. So you are basically medium specific. So this is not justified. And furthermore, it is an individual's freedom that if they want to play, it's up to them. It's up to their information. They want to have the expression, their entertainment. So this is constitutionally protected. And likewise, what about the legitimate businesses that people have, or the creative people who are making those games, right? And we also want this gaming industry. I think it's included in one of the schemes also. So we want to encourage that, and we cannot have bans in our own country at this point of time. Right, so in that way we can look into the aspect to what extent it is justified by giving pros and cons. Right then, so this is all from my side, and please do subscribe to our channel and click on that bell icon. I myself do not get it. I'm subscribed to this channel, so I myself don't get this notification. So please do that, and it doesn't bother much. It's just one video that comes a day, and yes, we are having those marathon videos that are going to come very soon. So this is all from my side. Bye bye. Take care and all the best.